Last week, I spoke about goals and how important it is to set goals for your small business and do quarterly check ins. If this is something you've always wanted to incorporate into your small business, then go and give that one a listen. Now, in this week's episode, I'll be interviewing Jackie from Ruth and Ruby. Jackie not only has a YouTube channel where she creates amazing DIYs, she has a storefront along with her online store that she runs. How does she juggle all the things? Well, let's find out in today's episode.
Welcome to the Rescued and Upcycled podcast with weekly inspiration, tips on trying new techniques, and overall real talk about owning your own DIY business. Now here's your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock.
Welcome back to Rescued and Upcycled. I'm your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock. I want to thank you all for joining me on my podcast. This is episode 31, you guys. If you guys are new here, I interview creatives and small business owners every other week, and I love talking all things business. I'm hoping that I've been inspiring you along with my guests that I have on here. Now, in today's episode, I'm interviewing Jackie from Ruth and Ruby. I first met Jackie at a conference that I attended roughly 2 years ago. We were there to learn how to market our businesses, and I discovered she had a YouTube channel and then found out she had her own storefront along with an online store. And honestly, you guys, it was so inspiring to see how she was able to juggle all the things. And I can't wait to hear how she started and dive into some tips and tricks of juggling so many balls. So let's give a big welcome to Jackie. Let me bring her on here. Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me on my podcast.
I'm so excited. So thank you for having me, Sonnet.
Oh, sure. For my viewers that haven't had an opportunity to have met you yet, just tell me a little bit or tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so obviously my name is Jackie. My store name is Ruth and Ruby. I'm married to an amazing man, Wayne, and he is the kind of the behind the scenes guy. Like, he does so much for our business that a lot of people don't see. And we have 3 little girls. They are amazing, and they're amazing helpers. Also, Sonnet, one thing that I did not say when we were talking about the intro is, on top of all of those things, is I actually homeschool.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
On top of all of that.
On top of all of that, yes. The kids have their little corner back there and behind the main sales floor. And that's where we do everything. We eat lunch there, we do our schoolwork there. And then, thankfully we are blessed to have an amazing backyard. So they spend a lot of time out there too. But yeah, they're here with me all day, every day. And so, yeah, we juggle a lot of things around here. My oldest will be 12 next month. My middle daughter is 9.5 and the baby is 4.
Oh my Lord, you have a 4-year-old with you while you're doing all these things.
Yes.
Girl, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So since I met you, she would have been 2 when I met you then, about.
Yes, that was actually, that trip was the very first time I have ever left any of my children for more than a night.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So your husband had to step up his game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, he's awesome because, at first I hesitated and then I was like, okay, I'm going to go, bought the ticket and everything. And then right before I hesitated again, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I don't need to go. Maybe I don't need to leave town. And he was like, I've got this. You need to go. And so I went, and I'm so glad I did because, it was so beneficial, not only for my business, but for making connections and friendships and just getting to know other people in the industry, because sometimes it can be isolating. Yeah. When you are an entrepreneur and you don't necessarily know anybody else that's doing what you do, and you're just trying to figure all the things out by yourself, and you don't know what you're doing. You don't have any idea that anybody that really has the same ideas and, somebody that you can bounce things off of. So that was really, really nice because that was also the first time that I actually met Julie in person. Like, okay. We had talked for a long time and, kind of worked together virtually a lot, but that was the first time that we actually met for the first time in person. And, that just strengthened our friendship. So I'm so glad I went.
Yes. So, and for those that don't know which Julie she's talking about, Julie from
Yeah.
Julie's Designs and Signs.
Yeah.
So, yes, she was a speaker there. That was very like inspirational. Just listening to
Yeah.
like how she juggles so many things too. So,
Mhm.
yes. So, one thing how long have you been in business, and how did you actually get started?
Okay, so I've actually been in business since 2011.
Okay.
So it was, yeah, so it was just like a very small side hustle because I was still in college and Wayne and I had just gotten married and I needed something to relieve stress because between work and school, I was stressed a lot, right? And so I remember when I first started doing all of this, I got a saw but just like one of the little bitty small Ryobi saws. And I was cutting 2x4s to make blocks on our apartment patio. And so our patio faced the parking lot. And I got so many crazy looks from people pulling in thinking, what is this girl doing chopping wood on her tiny little apartment patio? But so that's how I really got started is I just needed something to do with my hands. And that fall, I decided to do my very first craft show. And I'll be honest, I did not think anybody was going to buy anything that I made. I don't know why. And and a lot of makers, when they first begin, they feel that. And
Mhm.
so I shared a booth with a friend. She was a candle maker, which ironically, I also make candles now too, but we'll go there in a minute. But I shared that booth with her and
Mhm.
I thought nobody would buy anything, but they did. And I was shocked. So I was like, you know what? Maybe we need to look at this. And so we dove a little deeper. And I was going to see, actually, that just came to mind. If I locate it here in a minute, I'll show you. But the first product that ever really did well for us was ceramic tiles. So I would take ceramic floor tiles and cut designs in vinyl and put it on them. And
Okay.
I sold thousands and thousands of those. It was crazy. So that's how we really got started. And then I kind of started like dabbling into t-shirts,
Okay.
and that really took off. And when t-shirts became so crazy busy, I started to get overwhelmed because I was like, I can't do all of this. Like it was just too much. And at that time, my middle one had just been born. I went back to work 2 weeks after I had her because I was so busy then.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yes. I remember standing at the embroidery machine with her in a carrier on my back at 2 weeks postpartum thinking, what am I doing? But at that time, I was like, if I don't take care of these customers, then they'll go somewhere else. And
Mhm.
I have since learned that it doesn't have to be like that. I don't have to be afraid that people are going to go somewhere else. So that progressed, and I finally decided, okay, I need to simplify some things. I need to really just decide like what fuels my fire, and that is home decor.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, this apparel stuff, I'm going to leave that to my mom. So my mom took all of that back over and she was doing that on the side, has been since. And she makes some cups and things like that. And so then I really honed in on my home decor because that's really what spoke to me anyway. That's really where my heart is. And that just one thing led to the other to get to where we are here. And DIY paint was really the transition for me when I brought that in and started selling DIY paint. And when I found Jamie and Zeb online, and that's how really all of this started slowly. It was kind of like a
Mhm.
snowball effect. Found DIY paint, used it, loved it. And I said, oh, you know what? I think maybe I need to sell some of this so that people can do their own upcycles like I do.
Right.
And here we are. So
I
I know
love it.
there's a lot in between, but I'm going to pause for a minute because I'm talking too much and it's your turn.
Okay. So the one question, okay, so you started with shows. When did you officially decide I want to open a storefront? Like that,
So about 8 years or so ago, I said, let me try this booth thing because I'd gotten to the point, like I was doing really well online. And believe it or not, I didn't have a website for the longest time. Like Facebook back in the day when people would actually see your stuff.
Mhm.
And so they would purchase that way. And it got to the point where I was really tired of scheduling meetups locally. And I was like, I need to find a place where I can like drop my stuff off. And so there was this cute little store in town And I went and talked to her, and she sold not only booths, but like tables. So I said, well, if I rent a table for $40 a month, and I sell some stuff on the table as well, but can I drop things off here for people to come and pick up? And she said, absolutely. And that was the saving grace, because I would just take it over there. They would go there and pick it up. And it was a win-win for both of us, because then people would come in and also browse the store. Well, that ended up growing into from the table to the booth. And I was there for 4.5 years. And eventually I knew that it was time for me to grow a little bit more and do something else. And we moved out of there and into the warehouse. So we converted what would typically be your standard, like, it was kind of like where they would work on cars too, because there was a big roll-up door where they could get big equipment in and out. There was actually even like oil stains on the concrete where you could tell that it had been that. But I was like, it's what we could afford. So it's what we did. We worked with what we had. That's always been one of my biggest things, is start where you are, use what you have, and grow from there. Mm-hmm. Because I find myself, I try to do it too. And then my sweet husband, he has to rein me back in and say, this is what we can do right now. But we all want to start at the top, and we can't always start at the top. We have to start where we are and use what we have and continue to reinvest in it. So we started there at the little warehouse that was about 1,000 square feet, and we're there a year and a half. And this spot that I'm in now became available, and I called about it just to kind of get an idea of like how much it would cost, because we knew that we had outgrown the warehouse, but I didn't think that I could really afford much more. And so when I talked to her and she told me, what the cost was, and it was a big leap of faith, but Wayne was like, I really think we need to do it. And we did. And we have now outgrown this space, but I'm not moving.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I was thinking right away. You're moving again.
No, the only way I will move is, well, if something happens and like my landlord sells the property or, something like that. Mm-hmm. But for me to just desire to move would have to be if we purchase our own property.
Okay.
So that's really the only desire I have to move again, because moving your house is a big deal, but moving a business it's a lot. It's stressful.
Yes.
So
I know, it's like with my business too, like I run everything from my home, and I'm at the point where I'm outgrowing. Yes. My husband is like, this is not a warehouse. Like, yes. And it's looking like a warehouse, and it's like causing, what was that?
And it feels like one.
Oh yes. And it is like, it's just becoming too much for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to like, in the new year, have to like really sit down and like crunch numbers and like either buy something like a warehouse of some sort or like a building where I can separate the two. It's just when I decided. So.
And another thing that I really found when I was working at home and stuff was everywhere is that I was never able to shut work off. Right. Some people are really good at being able to do that and say, okay, I'm done working for the day. Now I'm mom and wife and got to do all the home things. And I could not juggle both. It was like when work was everywhere staring me in the face, all I could think about was work. And I felt like home was somewhat neglected, Mm-hmm. I'd be like, oh, well, we're 5 loads deep in the laundry, but things like that. But
I know. And like right now I'm juggling so much stuff with the retreat. I'm like, I have so much housework to do, and everyone thinks that, like I do everything perfect. Sometimes things go slack. Yeah. So, like
sometimes you have to.
Right. And I just said to my husband, after the retreat, the house is getting a deep clean, like head to toe, top to bottom. You know what I mean?
I do. Mine needs one right now too. So
yes. Oh, absolutely. So, well, gosh, that's like an interesting start. So you talked about possibly if you would buy your own building. Has that come up in conversation then?
It is definitely a desire, just because, the rent prices here are crazy. Well, the prices here are just crazy in general. Like, we have experienced so much growth in our area. I know that a lot of the country has seen it too, but our area in 2022 was named one of the top, it was either top 20, top 6, something, and like for growth. Mm-hmm. And we've seen it. Like, we are experiencing, because we have always been just such a small town. I'm only 3.5 miles to work from my house. And now that 3.5 mile trip takes me about 12 to 15 minutes to get home.
Wow.
Depending on the time of day. So yeah, so we've experienced exponential growth here. And so it's something that we would like to do, but it really just depends. Like the right property at the right time at the right price is going to have to line up and fall into our lap kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
that's kind of how I feel too.
yeah. But I mean, other than, needing a little bit more space for like storage and things, we're really happy here. We love this space.
Yeah. I know. When I look at the photos, you have the store just set up so awesome.
Thank
Like,
you.
I love your vignettes. I mean, I'm slightly obsessed with vignettes, so I always check everybody's out. I'm like, how are they doing this? And I zoom in, and so.
Well, and the thing is sometimes I don't really know what I'm doing. I just take it all apart. Like when I'm redoing one, I just bring it all down and start with a clean slate and just do what feels good, what I feel like looks good. And then, I've never had any like training or anything like that. So I just do whatever feels right.
That's awesome. How did you come up with your business name, Ruth and Ruby?
Okay, so when I started in 2011, I actually had a different name, and it was My Sister's Keepsakes. And I named it that because my sisters were younger at the time, and they wanted to like help me make the things. And, most of the things that we made were keepsake type items. And so in 2019, I started thinking, I really just feel like we need a different name. And so I just prayed about it, and I just feel like God laid on me Ruth and Ruby, and it's from my favorite woman in the Bible, who is Ruth. Okay. I love her story because it's kind of a beauties to ashes kind of story. And then Proverbs 31:10, she's far more precious than rubies. So that's where we got it.
I love it.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Everybody that comes in the store, they're just like, so are you Ruth or are you Ruby? And I'm like, well, neither. I'm telling the story, and most people are like, I love that. And then every now and then I get a funky look, like I have a third eyeball or something. They don't really understand, and that's okay. So
no. And I think when you just sit down and you say a little prayer and ask for help, it just comes, like I feel like, yes, like all of a sudden, like the next day, like I feel like I see things in a different light. So yes, absolutely. And did you always know though, like early on that you really wanted a business? Like, was there ever like a glimpse, like I really someday want to be an entrepreneur, or did it just, like kind of like
No, it kind of evolved that way. And I think maybe deep down it was always there, because when I look back and think about the things that I thought I wanted to be growing up, like as a child, at about 10 years old, there was a brief period where I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician.
Okay.
And then I realized that there was a lot of schooling and a lot of math involved. And I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to do that anymore. And so I was like, I really want to be a photographer. And then, which is kind of funny because there's so much photography in our businesses. So, so as I went on, through high school, I really thought I wanted to be a teacher, and actually went to school to be a teacher.
Okay.
And was like, you know what? I just don't know that the public school system is really where I want to be. And so then I went to school to do hair. And did hair. Yeah, I know, right? And then did hair for about 6 months. And I was like, yeah, I don't like this either.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, you're killing me right now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's a long way to get here. But during the whole doing hair, and that's when I started really working on the creative things that I make, which led me here. Now, when I first started this, did I ever think that I would end up here with this store full of all of this beautiful merchandise? Absolutely not. But I really hope that people can look at that and be inspired by that, because I literally started everything that I have now with $100 in a Cricut.
Wow.
Seriously.
Yes.
So it just depends on how much you are really willing to work for it and how much effort you're willing to put in.
And the one thing I took away from what you said earlier too is that you just kept reinvesting in your business. And I think people are so willing to spend on themselves versus reinvesting. And that's what I've done since the very beginning. I just kept reinvesting and growing, with that, because I want it to be debt free. I didn't want to have loans, because that's a killer of a lot of businesses too, because you're so far in debt that then you can't afford anything. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. So, how did you start incorporating YouTube? This is like, cause I went, like at the, event that we were at, then I'm like, oh my gosh, she has a YouTube channel on top of everything. So how did that all start?
So that actually started back with Jamie and Zeb because I was in their coaching group, which they have since dissolved that, but
Right.
I was in their coaching group, and it was one of the challenges that they had for us because, this was probably 4 years or so ago at this time, maybe 3.5, but it was a goal for them to have us create video content. However, we wanted to do that. Of course, they said YouTube is what we highly recommend. And so I was like, okay, well, if that's going to help me market my business, help me market the products that I sell, then I'll give it a shot. And so made my first YouTube video as part of one of their collaboration challenges. And I really loved like the results that I got. And I love to teach, obviously, like that's really just where my heart is at. The only thing that I don't love is the time that it takes to edit and put them together. And that is part of the reason that part of my videos are sometimes sporadic because, all of that over there has to come first. Like,
Right.
The store has to be put together and all of that. And I'll tell you, when I went from a booth to the store, that is one thing that I did not anticipate being such a challenge, is being able to do YouTube consistently with doing all of the other things. So that's really a goal for me for 2025 is to be able to do video consistently because like I said, I love to teach. I mean, that's really like where my heart is at, is to teach people how to use these things and give them ideas. And I feel like this last year I've had to really back off on that and I miss it a lot. So hopefully we can get back there.
Yeah. Well, good. I know. It's funny because when I asked my viewers, like, who do you want to see me interview? Your name came up. So
Really? Oh my gosh, you guys are precious. Thank you.
yeah. So I think that's awesome. And people always say they love your videos. So
Aw,
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So you definitely have to get back in it.
I do. And I'll be honest with you too, like, because I've had to back off of a lot of things, like just to get some things in order, and my sweet precious Sabrina has started back to school. And so she's not been here quite as much. So there's been a lot of other things that I've had to take care of just store wise. And so I haven't been able to be online as much as I want to be. And I feel like that has been a challenge for me lately because when you're not online and then people don't see you, they miss you,
Yes.
And so I miss y'all too. So I am getting back to it. And yeah, I've had to just reorganize a lot of things in my life. And I feel like we have finally gotten there. It's taken several months, but I feel like we're finally there. And I feel like I can finally get to this new like routine and be able to do Facebook and YouTube consistently, because Facebook is another good one for me,
Right.
and I feel like it is for you too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. When you're not there, often people are like, where are you?
Right. I know, like the
Show up
past,
for you guys. That's what I'm saying.
yeah. The last month I've been like, like on and off sick, and it has definitely worn on me. So I have not, especially the last couple weeks, I have kind of fallen off Facebook, and then my YouTube videos, I've only been doing one a week because it's all I can pull out, but at least they're getting one a week. Right.
Yes,
So
exactly. And that's a big thing. You guys just do what you can, because a lot of times people will say they'll back off completely because they're like, well, I can't do everything. Well, that's okay. Pick the one thing you can do and stick with that for now.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Because you try to do everything and you just can't.
No.
You have to, I always even say, like, start off with one thing, get really good at that, and then tackle like other platforms. Because even like with social media, for instance, I know that like my membership group, everybody wants to tackle all the things at once. I'm like, no, get good at one and then tackle another one. You can't do it all. It just,
right. Because starting with trying to do it all is just a recipe for burnout, and burnout is a real thing. And I've actually experienced that over this last year. And that's part of some of the things that I have had to deal with, because while I love what I do, it's a lot, you know? And so we have to be careful. We have to sometimes sit down and prioritize and say, well, you know what? This isn't serving me right now. So I'm going to just let that be for right now. And I'm going to focus on Facebook, or I'm going to focus on Instagram or whatever. Because when you try to do all the things at one time, it's hard. It's hard.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, and next week I'm going to be talking about burnout. So let's just dive into that a little bit. Yeah. So it's interesting that, that I picked that topic, because I get asked that so often, like, do you feel like you're going to get burnout? At this point, I don't, but like, how did you feel like you had it?
Okay. So, I'm going to get real transparent here. Okay.
Okay.
So, like, walking into my store and feeling like, this is great, but I don't even want to be here today.
Oh,
like, for real, just being very real with y'all. So walking into my studio and thinking, I have absolutely zero creativity today.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not to say that I'm not grateful for everything that we've built and everything that I have, because I am.
Mm-hmm.
But juggling all the things that I do is a lot. And sometimes it feels like too much, you know, and that's when I have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what's serving me? What's not?
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing that has helped me lately is taking time, giving myself grace on the things that I felt like I needed to be doing, like creating video, being live, all of those things, giving myself some grace on that, and allowing myself the opportunity to figure out where everything was really coming from. And it was really coming from a place of overwhelm.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to take that time and fix this studio, reorganize this studio, because as you know, like, we creatives can get out of hand. And we junkers can get out of hand, and we can buy way more than we have space for. So I had to take the time to really reorganize those things, sift through some things, and say, if this has been here more than a year, it's got to go. Because if I haven't painted it in a year, I'm probably not going to.
Right.
So I got rid of a whole truckload of stuff and reorganized and just reprioritized. And that has helped me tremendously. The fact that I can walk into this studio and see 3 tabletops is huge, because those 3 tabletops were slapped full for I can't tell you how long. Mm-hmm. And I would have to just like carve out a little space for me to come. Nobody can create good work like that. Oh. So after I've done that, that has helped tremendously. And I am feeling so much better and feeling like I can actually get back to all the things that I need to do. But I'm going to start with just creating a video. And if I can get to more than 1 video a week, fantastic. But my goal is to put up 1 video a week and 1 or 2 lives a week. That's what I'm starting with, because that doesn't feel too hard.
Good.
Once I get to that, then if I can do more, I'll do more. But that's what I'm starting with.
That's awesome. Yes. I know when you talked about being overwhelmed, there are days too that I think then I always just take a step back and I'm like, okay, why am I feeling overwhelmed? Mm-hmm. What are you doing that's making you feel this way, Sonnet? And, but yeah, I think taking on, for me, my subscription box, it has been a bigger undertaking than what I had initially thought it was going to be. So,
well, you know, when I told you that, you know, that was one thing, like, you do so much that inspires me anyway, but that lately has what's really made me go, because doing a box is something that I've actually wanted to do for about 2.5 years now. And I'll start it and I'll get a few ideas, and then I end up stopping because I get to that overwhelm part. Mm-hmm. And so watching you create what you have created, I'm like, why are you overthinking this, Jackie? Like, you're making it so much more difficult than it has to be.
Right.
And so, because, you know what, can I show you something real quick?
Sure.
I'm going to pause 1 second.
Okay.
So I want to show everybody, these are the things that I'm thinking about.
Yes. So I was actually going to say, because you have your laser, you could make a
Yes.
whole project box.
So I'm like, why? I have to go back to myself. Why am I overcomplicating this? So back, anytime anything is hanging you up, you guys, I want you to think about, really just like sit down and go back to, why am I
Mhm.
feeling this way? Like Sonnet said, what's causing me to feel this way? Because since I've started really doing that, and a lot of times I'll just jot it down. I'll just take a piece of paper and kind of like do a brain dump of, well, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, and I'm feeling these things because. And that really helps me get to the bottom of what's hanging me up,
Right.
and it's helped me overcome. So
Mhm.
just a little tip there if anybody is finding yourself in that little rut. So yeah, anyway, this is the things that we're working on. So
Awesome. I love it. And actually I was gonna after like on a, off camera, I was gonna tell you, I thought because you had mentioned you were possibly interested in doing something like that. I'm like, you have your laser. You could do
yeah,
so many amazing things. So
yes. And that's the thing too, is like,
Mm.
you know, I want that thing to earn its keep, you know.
Right.
It was expensive. It needs to make its money, you know. And so, not that it hasn't, because we sell a lot of engraved cutting boards in store. But I just want to be able to, send out our fun little cutouts all over the country. So, and
Yeah.
have people be able to create something, because, when you pick up something like this is something that, when Sally, for example, Sally needs something creative to do with her hands, but she doesn't really want to think about gathering all the materials and whatever she might need and this and that. This is going to be a complete kit where Sally can just sit down at wherever her workspace is and paint that, and just
Right.
because working with my hands is a huge decompression for me, and I know it is for a lot of other people too. So I just want to make something easy for them to be able to just sit down and do something with their hands.
Right. Awesome. I love it. Well, I'm glad that it finally like came to
Yes.
you. Yes.
So
Yeah.
thank you, Sonnet, for helping that click.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the maker's box has been like a huge blessing, but I'm finally like grasping managing it, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So, um, I wanted it to be big right away, but sometimes starting off big is not always best either. So it's
Yeah.
learning the ins and outs and growing slowly. And that's why I limit each time, like how many spots I open.
Yeah.
So
Well, just as a viewer watching you, I'm like, how does she do it all? Like, you are like the Energizer Bunny. And I'm like, I need to know. Like, I need to know how you do it all.
yeah, actually was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, I talked about it's actually, or was it this last week? Whatever week. It's all kind of like running in. I did
Yeah,
a
like it is.
podcast on time management and how like I sat down and I came up with, how I set my time management. So, but yeah,
I
that
haven't
was,
seen that one, so I'm making a note so that I can go listen. I don't know how I missed it, but that is my biggest opportunity, is time management.
Mhm. Well, and like the big kicker was I always thought, "Oh, I'm multitasking. I'm the best multitasker." And sometimes when you multitask, you start so many projects and you never finish them. And then that's like
Mhm,
complete overwhelm because you have
mhm.
all these started projects and you're not done, you're not finished.
Yeah,
So, that and like, yeah, you'll have to take a listen because
I
I
will.
break it down on like what I've done to really become better with my time because I'm very efficient.
Okay. And I
Uh,
want to be more efficient,
yeah.
because I am the same way. I have even said to my husband before, I just need to see something finished today. I don't care what it
Mhm.
is. I just need to feel like something got done, because
Yeah.
I can start things all day long. Finishing is sometimes a challenge.
Yes.
So, and
I
there's
know.
something about when you see the finished project, or whatever you're working on be finished, there's a sense of accomplishment there. And when I come day after day and I feel like I have started so many things but not actually finished anything, I feel like I've spent my whole week here and done nothing, even though I really have, because there's
Mhm.
been so many things that I have done, I just haven't finished.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I know. And the other thing I do is I have my I'm sure you have a calendar, but I have my calendar, and I used to just kind of roll with what needed to be done in a week. I would be like, okay, this week I have to do these things. Well, now I have set days. Like Tuesdays are my day to tape my podcast, and I make sure that that's my main priority for Tuesdays. And I
Mhm.
try to tape multiple podcasts if I can in one day. And that helps me get ahead, and just getting ahead on stuff that too really
Mhm.
like frees me from like, thank goodness I was so far ahead for my podcast, because otherwise when I got really sick, I couldn't even talk.
Yeah.
It was so horrible. But yeah, so that, and so I set all my big items, like you talked about how you want to create a schedule for creating your videos.
Mhm.
Have a day set for creating my videos, and then I have a day set for editing. And those big items I always keep in place, and then I slide in the little things that have to be accomplished each day. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, you'll have to take a listen. It was good.
I
I mean,
will.
I thought it was good.
Yes, I'm sure it is. I'm gonna listen when we're finished here.
Oh, okay. But I just want to find out too, like, where do you get your inspiration? So like when you're creating, like you're on your laser, and where do you find inspiration?
So a lot of times I just see things in my head, which is crazy because then when I'm telling Wayne, like, I need what I want,
Yeah.
and he's trying to draw it out, and I'm like, no, not like that, like this, So sometimes it's hard to articulate, but a lot of times I will find inspiration, Pinterest, Etsy. A lot of times, sometimes we just buy the file,
Okay.
like this cutie little thing here. This was just a file that I got from Redeemed Creators. I'm in her group,
Okay.
and she
Okay.
has a laser. So this was just a file that she gives us every month. So sometimes we create from scratch. Sometimes we just purchase things, and then we just paint them however we want to paint them and make them our own that
Mhm.
way.
Okay.
But sometimes too, like we created a little dress form for Teresa. I don't know if you saw that video a little while back, but the little dress form with the little,
Yeah.
because that is just so on brand for her. Like that speaks Teresa, her shabby chic style. And so we were talking one day, and I was like, we can cut just about anything. And so when she said, I would like to have that, so I explained it to Wayne, and he drew it out in the laser software. And I was like, yeah, that's perfect. So,
Oh, I love it. That's awesome. Um, wow. What made you guys decide to get a laser? I have to ask.
I wanted all kinds of little wood parts that I couldn't always find. Like, when you would see people making things with some of the wood parts that they would find like at Dollar Tree. And I'm like, my Dollar Tree never has this kind of stuff,
Right.
And we have always been big on like cutting boards and things like that. So I wanted a way to personalize those that would be food safe. So
Mhm.
the engraver was that. So we started, which I'd wanted a glow forge for a long time, and done a lot of research on that, and come to find out, I was like, well, Glowforge doesn't necessarily seem like it's the way to go. So we found the Eon Mira is what it's called. Sorry, I had just lost my train of thought for a second.
That's okay.
And so, yeah, it's got it's a big bed. It's like 22 by 30, 36 inches. And so we can cut a lot of various different sizes, and we love it.
That's
Like,
awesome.
we've barely scratched the surface with all the things that we can do with it.
That's very, very cool. I know that was I honestly, like 2 years ago, like that was kind of something that I had wanted to get.
Mhm.
There's just no time for me to like try to figure it out and learn it, and I'm like,
Well,
that's
and
not.
it takes up a lot of space.
Yeah.
Like,
Which,
I have nowhere to put it here. So that's at our house. So he has to do that in our garage at home. I'm like, man, I would really love to have it here, but there's just nowhere to put it because, you
right.
have to vent it outside so that the fumes go outside and everything. So
Yeah.
yeah. So we have to do that part at home again.
Okay.
But
Well, I love it. I can't wait to see what you design and create and kick off. So is there like a ETA of like when you want to kick off maybe a subscription box?
well, what I'm going to do right now is I have kits available. So these are going to be available just to purchase as a kit on the website for right now. So
Okay.
I am looking at Q1 of 2025 to start subscription boxes.
That's awesome. I love it. I love goals.
Yes, me too.
I know. I always talk goals, and I'm like, it really keeps me on track too.
Mhm.
So yes, I love
Yeah.
it. Well, good.
Well, and I had a coach one time tell me that a goal without a deadline is just a dream.
Mhm.
So that's why I have to put a timestamp on it, because if I don't, then I'm just going to keep dreaming about it and never actually get it done.
Right.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome. Yes.
Q1 2025, that's happening.
Okay. I know in my membership group, we always do quarterly check-ins. So for our goals, which keeps them really on track, and then it helps keep me on track too. Because
Yeah.
when they're all checking in, I'm checking in too. So I love it. Yes, that's a great saying or great tip from that other business coach.
Yeah, I would totally give credit if I remembered, but I don't.
Oh, that's awesome. So you talked about how you got your thrifting in check. So you're a big thrifter too, or you love thrifting?
Mhm.
Yes. I gotta dabble on this thrifting topic because I am a big thrifter myself. So,
Mhm.
have you always thrifted too, or did you just start incorporating that?
No, I was a thrifter before it was cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Like, I've always loved it. And yeah, I was actually, a friend and I were having this conversation because it's something that we've always enjoyed doing together. And we were talking the other day about how we helped make it cool, because now it is like such a trendy thing. And I've just always loved to take something old and discarded and make it new again, and I feel like, and a lot of that started too when I wanted to decorate our home and we didn't have the budget to just go buy all kinds of new stuff. And so I started picking up things and painting them. And, that's how that led me to the purchase of DIY paint, is because I'm like, well, if I'm using this paint all the time, then I might as well at least sell it and, make a few bucks on it.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's always been something. I really cannot ever remember a time in my life that I didn't really thrift.
Mm-hmm. I know. I can't either. I just remember when we used to thrift when I was younger, I was always like, oh my gosh, who's going to see me here?
Uh-huh.
Somebody is going to see me here. And
Yeah.
then looking back at it, I'm like, Sonnet, if they would have saw you there, they would have been there.
Yeah, exactly. They were there too. So,
But I just remember as like a little kid, my mom was like dragging me there. Or when we were pulling into the parking lot, I'd be like huddled down. And but now it's like, I proudly go and I
right.
find the
And I'm like, look what I got. Can you believe somebody threw this away?
I know. And my friends, they're like, we just don't have the patience for it. And I'm like, and me, like my heart skips a beat. Like, what am I going to find today?
Yes.
It's like a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
So,
and that's actually how my things got so out of control, is because like that's the dopamine rush for me, is to go to the thrift store and see what I can find. And then I come back with all these things. And so I've started telling myself, okay, if I cannot get that flipped within 30 days, then I cannot buy it. And I feel like 30 days is like really generous. But yeah, I'm like, if it needs any kind of repair, I'm probably not buying it right now, because I know that my schedule does not allow for repairs right now. So if I can't get it flipped right away, then I can't buy it.
Wow, that's a great tip.
And I'm actually like itching to thrift right now, because it's been probably about 2 months since I've been to the thrift store because I had so much stuff. Wow. So yeah, I'm really like dying to go.
Yes. So that's how I get when, like, okay, so I was doing these thrifting Thursdays for a while, but I would find so much good stuff at like our local bins that it was getting out of control. And then everyone's like, why did you stop thrifting Thursdays? I'm like, I have no more room for thrifting Thursdays, And so then I have been going I have just popped in here and there, but I'm like, oh my gosh, every time I go, I find the best stuff. And I'm like,
I can't leave it behind.
I know.
Yeah. I've got to rescue it.
That's exactly it. I'm like, oh my Lord. Or what can I do with it? Or I'm like, I'm sitting there, like I fill my cart up and I'm like looking at the item and I'm trying to figure out. And that's like at least I try to have a vision before I take it.
Absolutely. So, if I don't know what I'm going to do with it, that stays on the shelf too.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, is I get a lot of vision when I see all the things, but time does not always allow me. Because I will look at it and I'll say, well, I could do blah, 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 blah. But then I have to ask myself, but will you?
Mm-hmm.
Will you? Do you have time to do that? And if the answer is no, I'll put it back.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't ask myself that. Do you have the time?
Yeah, I've always got the time. It is infinite, you know?
I know. I have so much time on my hands. No.
I always think that I can get way more done in a day than what I actually can.
Oh, yes. Yes. I think we all are like that. I know. Like, even when I make my to-do list, I always like have like the hard core things that I have to get
Mhm.
done. And then
Yes.
I throw in a bunch of other stuff and I'm like, oh, I can get it all done. And I really can't. So,
Right. I do that too. I have to like, okay, these are a priority. These have to get done. And if time permits, these are the things I would like to get done. Mhm.
mhm. Right. I know leading up to my retreat, which gosh, I cannot believe it's next week. Well, by the time everybody listens to it, it'll be after. But yes, I cannot believe like I'm trying to get so much stuff done. And then the
Yeah.
IOD release and like everything's happening right now. So it's
Yes.
just crazy.
It feels like it all happens at once
I know.
sometimes.
I know. So I interviewed Jane from Jane Belante Art, and I had said to her, I'll feel so much better once the retreat is done. And she's like, why do you have to wait to feel better after the retreat? Just feel better now. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. I'm like, I'm trying.
Yeah. How do we just do that though?
I know. I know. I'm trying. I'm just trying to enjoy the moment. And I'm just trying to like, I am trying to feel better and just try to spread it all out.
Yeah.
So, yesterday and today were my days. I had to pack my subscription boxes. So I can pack about 200 in one day.
Are you
And
serious?
yeah, but
That's
it's a,
impressive, Sonnet.
what was that?
That's impressive.
Yeah. So, but now today, like I had to, I make time for my podcast and stuff. So I don't know if I'm going to get the remaining 200 done today. So
Yeah.
it might go in
You
tomorrow.
must have a serious system in
I
order
do.
to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I very early on I realized like I didn't want mistakes to happen. And
Mhm.
so I package them 10 at a time. So I pick 10 of each item and I realize then if there's any extra pieces, something's not, because I put it all in and then okay, all the pieces are there and then I close it all up.
Yeah.
And so I have like a very strict system. Yes. So but it does take still about a half hour to do 10 boxes.
Mhm.
So everything takes time. And I'm like, how could it take a half hour for 10 boxes? But it does. So
Yeah. It does. They take a while to pack up.
yeah. But so let's go back to I just want to talk a little bit about your store. Where are you guys located?
So we are in the North Georgia mountains, about an hour north of Atlanta. So a little town called Jasper.
Oh, okay.
And so if any of you are somewhat local to us, our address is 675 Noah Drive, Jasper, Georgia.
Okay. And so it sounds like for those that have never heard of your store, like a lot of home decor, DIY products, all the good stuff that they can get from you.
Lots of home decor, much of it handmade and upcycled, of course. We do order in some wholesale since, we have such a large store now. But we sell 4 paint lines and IOD and lots of home decor and gift type products. Another line that is actually ours is candles. So I started working on candles about 2.5 years or so ago. And it took me about 1.5 to almost 2 years to get it right. I would not believe there's so much testing involved, but we have a lot of people that come back now and they say that we have the best candles in town. So
Are they soy?
they're not. They're actually a wax called cocoa apricot cream.
Okay.
And that is they call it a luxury wax because it is a very just like soft and smooth wax. Sometimes with soy you can get holes and like tunneling when you pour, but for the user, the luxury is that the scent throw is wider. So if you burn the candle in your kitchen, the distance that scent throw is going to go is further than soy.
Okay. Interesting. And what is it called? What kind of wax?
It's cocoa apricot cream. So it's coconut apricot cream wax.
Okay. I'll have to tell my mother, because my mother is a candle maker as well. And
Yes, tell her to look into that and just test it. She makes soy.
yeah, she does soy. And
Yeah.
she did a ton of testing as well. And
Mhm.
like, because you test the different wicks and all of the good
Yes.
stuff.
You
So,
wouldn't think that the wick would make a difference, but it does.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes. And yeah, so I understand the whole testing part and why it took you so long, because I'm like, what are you doing? Can't you just pour? She's like,
We wish.
and that's what she's like, no, I can't just pour on it.
Yeah.
So yes, that's awesome. So what scents do you have? Like everything? Or?
Well, no, I keep it fairly limited because again, I'm hand pouring these. Our signature scent is a scent called Dark Mountain Rose. It is a very like floral, but I need to look at what they say the notes are in that to get a better description for that. But that is our signature scent. It's our top seller. And I just poured fall candles last week. So toasted marshmallow pumpkin brulee is a very popular one. It smells so good. You could eat it.
But
And
don't.
nope, absolutely don't. It is an all natural wax. However, the fragrance would probably give you a stomach ache.
Right.
Yeah, and then crisp apple dumpling. That's our two top fall sellers. Yeah.
Oh, both sound amazing.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, sometimes I rename them. Sometimes I name them just like whatever the scent jar is called, but sometimes I rename them because if I smell it and it gives me like a thought or a memory or something, then I'll rename it. So this one reminded me when we used to do festivals. So we would do the Apple Festival. It's the town north of us. And we would do Apple Festival every year. And the apple dumpling vendor was right across from us.
Okay.
And it always smelled amazing all day, every day. And we always had to get one because, you can't be there all day and smell all that and not eat one. So yeah, that one, when I poured it, it reminded me of that. So that's how that one got its name. And then I just made a brand new scent the other day with my sweet niece is actually my best friend's daughter, but I didn't have enough scent for this particular one. And I was like, oh no, Carson, what are we going to do? So we mixed and yeah. So I was like, okay, well, guess what? Now you get to name this one because I couldn't call it vintage leather and oak noir because that's not all it was,
Yeah.
And so she was stirring and she was like, it smelled like grandma's. And I was like, really? And so her mom smelled it and she was like, yeah. So Grandma's Chef Robe. So that's what we named it. So we have Grandma's Chef Robe now. It's a brand new scent that you cannot get anywhere else.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. So do you pour it at your store or at home?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
You pour it at the
In
store.
the back room, we've got the candle counter where I've got the big melting pot. And so I usually try to do that on a day that we're closed so that because it can be very fragrant. So yeah, I try to do that on a Monday or Tuesday when we're closed.
Okay. So your store hours, then you're open Wednesday through Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. So also, where else can my viewers be inspired by you? So you are on YouTube, you're on Facebook. Are you on Instagram?
I am. I'm not very active on Instagram, I'll be honest. I'm usually most active on Facebook, and I am about to start growing my TikTok. So if you don't follow me on TikTok, go there.
Yes. I know. I've been dabbling with TikTok too myself. So it's amazing. Like one TikTok will take off and I'll grow leaps and bounds, and then I'll get crickets. Crickets. So I'm like, and that's kind of how it was on Instagram too. Like I had a couple like posts that just went totally like semi-viral and I grew like crazy. And now it's like, hey, are any of you guys out there still?
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the reason that I backed off on Instagram because I'm like, it was going back to what's not serving me. And Instagram was not serving me because it was like I would make the effort to post something and I would get like 2 views.
Right.
And I'm like, what's happening? Where is everybody at?
Yeah. And when you have quite a few followers, it's like, why aren't they seeing it at least?
Yes.
Your followers. So I know. I'm going to reevaluate like my social media, like in the new year as well. So, and like you said, see what's serving me.
Exactly. But they can also hear from me weekly in their inbox too, if they want to get on your email list.
On
my email list. Yeah. We send out a weekly email.
Nice. Yes, I think that is so forgotten too, that we own our emails or, our email list, where we don't have to then rely solely on the social platforms and the algorithm.
But also, going back to the viewer perspective as well, that is the one place that you can absolutely guarantee that you will hear from the people you want to hear from. Because if you add us to your address book in your email, we won't end up in your spam, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's the one place that you can guarantee, because sometimes we may or may not end up in your feed on Facebook or Instagram or wherever. So if you want to make sure that you're hearing from me or from Sonnet every single week, add our email addresses to your address book and we'll pop up in your inbox every time.
Oh, that's a good tip, because that was one thing too with, I send out emails for my subscription and stuff like that. And a lot of times I still end up in their spam. So adding to the address book. Good tip.
I think there's been some changes recently because my open rate has dropped big time.
Yeah. It's something to do with what's called a DMARC. Amanda, she's in our membership group, and she's like really into IT, and she said something happened with that.
Yeah. So I don't know. We just keep plugging along and keep doing it. And, hopefully we'll figure out what we need to do to adjust, because, I know that people want to hear from me because we had such a good open rate before. So yeah, for it to go down as drastically as it has, I'm like, something's up.
Right. Yeah. Well, one last thing before we wrap this up, I just want to mention too, with your store, you just had Teresa from Our Green Acres. So how did that all go?
It was so good. In fact, I didn't get hardly any pictures because we were just so busy and enjoying the day. And there's nothing I love more than to see people crowded around my workbench, just enjoying themselves and creating something like that. That's the ultimate high for me, So it was really such a good day, and everybody had the best time. So yeah,
I know. I interviewed Teresa and she was so fun. I just love her.
She is. She brought me so much stuff. When she first said, "Hey, what if I bring some things over and we do some like raffle prizes?" I was like, "Absolutely, that sounds like a blast." Girl brought a truckload. Like,
oh my gosh.
Okay, maybe not a truckload, but her trunk was definitely full. Like, so much stuff. And so we gave away gift with purchase too, which was so fun. So everybody that purchased got to pick something that she had made, and just to see people light up, like, "Oh, I get to take that home." And I'm like, "Yeah, you get to take it home." And it was like Christmas. It was awesome.
That is so awesome. Oh, I love it. I know she creates so many fun things all the time. I love watching all of her videos. So yeah, well, awesome. Well, I do want to thank you for being on my podcast today. And
Absolutely.
I love that my viewers had the opportunity to meet you and just, hear about all your tips and tricks of running your small business. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And I hope that I was able to inspire some of you and give you some ideas. And so thank you so much for having me on it.
Oh, yes, anytime. Now, you guys, in next week's episode, I'm going to be talking about burnout. I know I mentioned it during the podcast, but this is a topic that does come up often for me. I always get the same question: are you afraid of burnout? So stay tuned to next week's episode when I talk about what I do to prevent it and if I'm afraid it will happen. So if you guys don't already, follow me here on any of the podcast platforms. Definitely rate, review, and subscribe to my podcast channel. If you're on YouTube watching this, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking, and definitely subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Sonnet's Garden Blooms, and I'll always post upcoming episode information over there. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.